Alright, hello and welcome to another Marvel Snap video. So, with the end of December right around the corner, I wanted to make a video reviewing the cards coming out in January. I think there's a lot of very interesting cards, and I have watched a few videos on it, and I don't know, I feel like people aren't really sharing the same thoughts that I have on the cards, so I wanted to make a video and share my opinions on the matter. I don't normally do this, but this one I thought I actually had good insight that I could provide. So the first card that is coming out in January is Rocket Raccoon and Groot. It's a 3/3 with the text. You can move this once. After your opponent plays a card here, steal 1 power from it. So I think this deck or this card is an extremely interesting card. I think there's multiple different ways that this can be used. I think the first and most obvious ones, probably the deck that this will be best in, is some sort of affliction deck. Looking at either a high Evo using Abomination to get a very cheap card, or a non-high Evo version where you're just relying on Ajax and maybe some clutter to kind of force your opponent to play into this card. The other really interesting synergy is this card is a Guardians of the Galaxy card, and its text is very similar to those of other Guardians of the Galaxy cards. So you can play Nebula, and then on 3, play this into your Nebula. So your opponent either has to start giving power to the Rocket and Groot, or let your Nebula gain power. So you're always gaining power in this location every turn, which I think is really unique. Or you can pair it with something like Jean Grey, where your opponent has to play a card there every turn unless he has Jeff or War Machine, in which case you're going to be getting power every turn, and then you can hit other Guardian snipes with like Gamora, Star-Lord, Groot, Drax. And I think this card is going to be a very strong card. Cards that can move on their own are good, um, and its ability is good. It's basically a Nocturne, which was a very strong card, combined with a Silver Sable, which recently got nerfed and is still an extremely strong card. I expect Rocket and Groot to be like a very good card. I would say if you're giving it like a grade of something out of 10, I would say I expect this card to be like an 8 out of 10. Like if you have the keys, I think this is a card to get. I think it'll be a very strong card. All right, hopping in to the second card coming out this month or in January is Victoria Hand. She's a 2/3 with the ongoing. Your cards that were created in your hand have +2 power. So the text notably excludes Arishem and Loki are the two points. That's why it says created in your hand. Um, I don't know how good this card will be. I think a 2/3 that provides +2 power has the potential to be an extremely strong card. Even if you play her and then just play like Sentinels every turn, they're 2/5 Sentinels after the first one. Like, that's just really good. So, like, in a vacuum, her ability is extremely strong. It's an ongoing, so you can play it on turn 6 to get that power on the board. You don't have to play her on turn 2. However, she also is a good curve filler with her being on turn 2. She will then synergize really well with cards like Collector, and in my thought, a Wiccan card generation deck has already been a decent deck. I think it's a very slept on deck. People don't use it a lot, but it plays out a lot of cards because it uses all the energy and then it gets extra energy at the end. Having Victoria Hand to then also give +2 power to all of those Wiccan cards that you get, I think that deck could see a lot of play and be a very strong deck. Um, but the other notable thing is this might help. I know this is crazy. It might help Devil Dino actually be good again, because Devil Dino you want to generate a bunch of cards, so it could be there as well. It just depends on how many cards you're able to generate. This card will empower smaller cards like Maria Hill, Mirage, and cards similar to that, Kate Bishop. Those cards that generate very cheap cards that you can play out, right? Because Kate Bishops are all 1 drop, so those will, and they already have really strong effects in general, so getting +2 is even better. I could see it being good, but I think this is a card you grab only if you enjoy the random card generation. So for me, I'm very excited for the card. I think it'll be a very fun card, but I don't think this is going to be a very meta defining card one way or other. I would say it's probably a 5 out of 10. It's a if you want it, it's worth getting. If you don't enjoy those card generation collector decks, then I don't think you're missing out. There could even be like a world where you do some sort of helicarrier stuff here, which could be really cool. I don't know. I think it's an interesting card. I don't think it's a very strong one. I think it's going to be in the realm of Doom 2099. Super interesting card. Viability may vary. Then the third card coming out in January is Moonstone. She's a 4/6 with the ongoing. Has the ongoing effects of your 1, 2, and 3 cost cards here. So the obvious thing that everyone's saying is Mystique is going to be crazy, right? You could play like I don't know, Miss Marvel, Mystique, Moonstone, and then you have three Miss Marvels middle. Obviously, how viable is that, right? I don't know. But you can do crazy things like that with this. It's on the board because Mystique will count as a three cost card with an ongoing effect, so it can take those higher cost cards and reduce them, so Moonstone can use them. I don't think that's going to be the most realistic approach for this. What I do think is I think that this card will make Patriot even more annoying. I think Patriot is just a generically good deck. I don't think it's oppressive. Um, but you have a play line of Patriot on 3, Mystique on 4, Moonstone on 5, Ultron on 6. Moonstone would take the Patriot and Mystique, so all of the Ultron bots would get +8 power. So your Ultron would add 40 power to the left and right locations, because each drone would be the base 2 +8, so 10 power bots, which is just ridiculous to really think about. Obviously, oh, it's not realistic. Yeah, I got that. But this is just another tool. Like, Patriot Blue Marvel is already hard to deal with. Like, it's already hard to deal with, like, 20 power in each location. Now you're looking at 40 power. Like, it's an instant lose. Like, it's going to be a very strong. So, I don't think she's a very interesting card outside of Patriot. I can't think of any cards that she's like obviously super strong with. Like Dazzler could be cool, I guess, but I just don't see a world where she sees play in like a Spectrum deck because she's too expensive. And then in an Onslaught world, all the low cost cards only affect one lane, so you wouldn't be able to win multiple. Patriot, I think, is where she would find a home, and I think it's going to be a very oppressive home. Um, but I don't see her being crazy. So if you enjoy Patriot, if you are a Patriot enjoyer, then I would say definitely grab her. But if you aren't really an ongoing, I don't see the point in grabbing her. I would say she's probably going to be a 7 in strength, but it's if you don't like the deck, just don't play it and start running Enchantress or something, right? Like that's going to be the way around it. The fourth or second to last card coming out in January is Bullseye. He recently got a buff. He lost 2 power, but also got a cost reduction. He is now a 3/3 with the activate ability of discard all cards that cost 1 or less from your hand. Afflict that many different enemy cards with -2 power. So this, in conjunction with Rocket and Groot, could see the rise of non-high Evo affliction decks. Uh, People have been speculating that a bounce deck could be really good with him, where you falcon a bunch of one drops you don't really care about to then discard them and afflict a bunch on your opponent. What I think is really interesting with this card and what I plan to do with it, which I did recently in a video, is use debris to clutter the board a lot, pick up those rocks on the final turn, and then you could activate this ability to discard all the rocks from your side of the board and hit your opponent's rocks or whatever for that -2 power. So each rock that you play out would give 2 power effectively. So I think that could be a very strong use case as well. And then you'd have things like Hood as well that you don't really want on the board. A notable thing here is that it says cards that cost 1 or less. So in theory, you could also keep Yellow Jackets and Wasps in hand uh, to discard them as well. Technically, you could use the Hammers, Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. I'm not sure about that one. I don't see the world where that makes a whole lot of sense. Um, the other important thing here that I don't think I've seen anyone talk about is a swarm. If you already discarded a swarm, the swarms would get discarded by this too, which would be very strong. So I think that's something also to look out for just as a strong tool in generic discard. I think Bullseye is going to have a lot of homes. I think it's going to be a very annoying deck to play against, a very annoying card to play against. I think Luke Cage will probably see a high rise on this card's release because of it. I would say the strength of this card, I would assume, would be 8 or higher, like an 8 or 9 out of 10, because he has an activate ability. So what that gives you, the flexibility in a discard deck, is you can Modoc on 5, then activate on 5. This will then pull your Scorn and all the swarms you hit to re-discard all of those. So you're looking at 3 more discards, and all those are afflicting -2 power. You're getting the Scorn buff. You're getting 4 swarms in hand then. You're getting 6 power onto your Morbius. So I see this being a very strong card in discard, but then also it having a home in a lot of affliction decks because it can apply affliction to a lot of cards. So you're looking at gaining a lot of power on Ajax, a lot of cost reduction on Abomination. I see it being a very, very strong card. And the last card coming out in January is Aries. He's a 4/6 with the on reveal. Compare the power of the top 3 cards of both decks. If your total is higher, +6 power. This card is a very simple and very basic card. The home you're looking at is in a Surtur Scar deck where you're already playing a bunch of very large cards. So most of the time, if not all the time, your top 3 cards would be higher than your opponent, making Aries a 4/12, and then giving cost reduction to Scar and power to Surtur. However, I think that Aries could serve as another interesting role to kind of give information because as a 4/6, he's like fine, right? Like even as a 4/6 stat line, you don't hate it. You don't love 4/6s obviously, but you don't hate him being on the board as a 4/6, and it could give you information if you are in a conquest situation where you know what your opponent's running. You can compare top threes and see, does he have more power than me or do I have more power than him? And that information alone could be very valuable to know what likely they're drawing in the next 3 cards. I could see a world where this card could go into a mill deck. And that might seem a little strange, but it's because of that compare top 3. I think that that text has a lot of very interesting implications that could win you a lot of games. In a mill deck, if you compare top 3 and you know that your gladiator is in your top 3, right? If you play him on 4, you have like 5 cards left in your deck or something. So you would know that gladiator is in your top 3 if you pull him in the next 2, which would mean that your gladiator will kill whatever's there. Or if you have gladiator in hand and you still win that, then you know that your gladiator is definitely killing whatever it is and you can get some more mill value. And if you win this, this is the power that something like a mill deck could use, a 4/12, to get that extra power on the board. So I think that that compare feature it has could be a very interesting one to look at. And I think that he would see more use than just being a 4/12 stat stick. But yeah, If you guys enjoy this video, please let me know. It's not something I normally do because normally they don't do very well, but I really thought when I watched a lot of videos like this, I didn't think they touched on the nuances that some of these cards had as much as I felt like they should have. So if you guys enjoy this and want to see more, please let me know. Or if you don't want to see no, please also let me know. I want to give you guys the content you want, so please, all the help you can provide is appreciated.